Hello teachers, my name is Teacher Stephanie from teachingstephanie.com, and in today's video we are going to be talking about setting up your Zoom account for success with online teaching. In this video I'm going to show you how to set up your settings for success in Zoom. I will also show you the control bars, both the participant side and the host side, and then I will tell you some things that you need to practice before your next class. Like I said, in this video, we are talking all about setting up your Zoom account for success with online teaching. I have taught online for about 3.5 years now. I teach with two different companies, VIP Kid and Outschool. Outschool uses Zoom as the platform to video chat with students across the globe. You can look for my playlists on both companies. I will leave them in the description box. I will also leave my application link if you decide that's a great fit for you and something you want to try out. Now, on to Zoom. First, we're going to go over some settings in Zoom that I would recommend for both behavior management and just optimizing your class as an online teacher. These are things that you can do ahead of time and you will just have to set and forget, and you won't have to do each class. Now, as always, these are just my own recommendations and preferences for my own online classroom. Think about how you want the class to go, how you want students to participate, and you might choose to do all of these things, some of these things, and maybe just none of these things. But I wanted to show you the ones that I prefer because I think they'll be helpful to you as you're teaching online.
Okay, so first let's go ahead and start a fake meeting so that you can see what this looks like. So here you can see my video is not turned on. I'll turn it on. Hello. And then you can see some of the settings here. So down at the bottom is the control bar, and I'm going to show you first how to set up some of the participant features. So you'll click on participants, and then you'll click on more on the drop-down menu. I like to play the enter-exit chime as students come in and out so that I know when they are there and they're not stuck in the waiting room. Okay, now let's go to share screen and the advanced sharing options, and I want to make it so I am the only one who can share. Only the host can share because I don't need them to share anything with me in this lesson. So I'm making it so only I can share so I don't get any distractions on the screen. Now here you can see the participants on the side, and it will show more obviously as there are more students in there. Okay, now let's pull up some of the features in the chat box. Down at the bottom you can see chat, and then over to the side here you can see these options. We have mute participants upon entry, that one's self-explanatory. Allow participants to unmute themselves. That means that they can unmute themselves even when you don't want them to. So sometimes I don't allow them to if they are kind of a rowdy bunch and they're getting out of hand. I don't let them unmute themselves. There's also play, enter, and exit chime. Again, that's something that I like so that I know when students are coming in and out. Now, as you can imagine, I do not allow participants to rename themselves because it is mostly inappropriate or distracting. So I do not allow this one. I always turn it off. If they need to be renamed, I can just go into the participants tab and rename them. If it's a parent's name or a sibling name from a previous Zoom meeting, that's easy enough for me to do, and they don't need to have control over that with the age group that I teach. And lock meeting just stops any new participants from coming into the meeting and puts them in the waiting room until you allow them to come in. And the waiting room just allows you to control when participants enter the meeting. Now here you can see the various options for a chat. You can chat with no one, a particular person, or everyone. Unless I have a specific activity in mind using the chat, I usually disable it because again, it leads to a lot of distractions. Next, let me share with you how to share the screen and some settings you'll want to put on here. So let's go to the whiteboard function. This is really awesome for so many different classes to draw and write out problems. Here I'm just going to draw a little smiley face so you can see. Here are the different options up on the control bar. Here, it's a separate control bar from the one on the bottom. Now at the bottom, you want to disable the attendee annotation. Now, unless you have a specific activity in mind for the lesson where you are having them draw on the screen or circle something that they see in a picture on the screen, I like to disable this because, again, it leads to a lot of distractions when somebody else is drawing on the screen when they're not supposed to be. We'll come back to some of the features on this whiteboard and share screen in just a minute, but let's keep going with the settings. Now, one last thing I want to share with you is the virtual background feature. Just go to Preferences up at the top, and then you go about halfway down to virtual background, and it is going to show you some preloaded pictures that they have, or you can upload your own. I have some for different holidays and things like that. I'll show you what it looks like here. Oh look, I'm all decorated for Christmas, visit San Francisco, or just something fun.
Now let's take a look at the Zoom control bars. There is going to be a control bar that looks different from a participant's perspective than it does if you are the host. So let's go over both of those, what the functions are on each of the buttons, and just so you know what the participants are seeing, what you can do to tell them if it's something you don't want them to do, and some things that you can use to engage your students in your classroom with those particular control bars. First, let's take a look at the host control bar.
All right, the host control bar is down at the bottom. It's this black bar. We're going to go from left to right. So this is to mute yourself and unmute yourself. The next button is to stop and start your video. And then we'll go to security. Now, security is all about controlling what the participants can and can't do. It's already some of the things we went over, sharing the screen, chatting, renaming themselves. All of those things you can find in security. And moving right along, you can go to participants, and it will show you a list of all the people in the meeting on the right hand side. And then you can also see chat on the right hand side as well. You can take those on and off your screen if you want to see them as you're going in the meeting. All right, and you can see me here taking off the chat and taking off the participants so that I can see the full screen of just the video chat. Now let me share with you again the share screen options. There are so many different ways to use this. I use them all the time to share my presentations on the screen, also online multiplication games in my classes. I know that some teachers use them with their document cameras to go right from there. They also share what's on their phones right from that share screen option. Let's go ahead and look at what the whiteboard can do, because I think you'll find a lot of options there will work with a lot of different classes, and it's really helpful when you can see those features. Now, obviously, you can draw on the screen. This makes it really helpful for writing down multiplication problems or playing Pictionary. Now, you can also type on the screen if you don't have a great way to draw on the screen. This makes it really clean and easy to write down words, and it also is a little bit faster. This is great for labeling anything that you want to share on the screen. Another great way to add some visual interest is the spotlighting effect and the stamps. You can really get their attention where you need it to be on the whiteboard. And if you ever make a mistake, you can always click undo or redo. You can also do the erase button and erase everything that you've drawn on the screen manually. And then you can always change the format of what you are drawing, so the thickness, the boldness, the transparency, the color. You can draw squares, boxes, arrows, all sorts of things on the whiteboard feature. It's really fun and a great feature in Zoom. And then you can always click clear my drawings when you're done. And back to the control bar for the host, you can see there's a record button if you ever need to record the lesson so that you can send it to your students. And there's also reactions. You can give them a big thumbs up. You can also give them an applause to tell them, good job, way to go, you're doing awesome.
Now let's take a look at the participant control bar, what the student is seeing and their buttons, so that you can know how to prepare for the behavior management you might occur and what the students are seeing on their end of the screen.
Okay, as a participant, I am joining a meeting. It is going to show me what my video looks like before I join. Then I'm going to go to the waiting room. Now, you can make this waiting room fancier in the preferences, but I just keep it like this so they see my name and they know that they are waiting for me to let them join the meeting. Okay, and I am in. On the left is the teacher side of the screen. On the right will be the participant side so that you can see what that looks like. Now down at the bottom is our control bar, the same as the host, but it's a little bit different. We have the mute button. They can go on and off. The stop and start video button. Now depending on your settings, I can mute or unmute myself as much as I please unless you disable that. Now, when the participant goes to stop video, he or she can choose a virtual background, the same as the host. They just can pick any picture that they have. This again can get a little distracting, so I try to ask them not to do this if it is getting out of hand. Now, the participants can also look at the other participants in the meeting. They just click there, they can invite, they can mute, they can raise or lower their hand. When they raise their hand, you can see a blue raised hand on their screen, so you know who has their hand raised and that they have a question and they're waiting for you. Now they can also enter the chat and talk to whoever you have allowed them to talk to, so they can type in the message there and talk to everyone or one person or nobody if you have that disabled. Now let's say a participant tries to share the screen. Oh, the host has disabled that I can share the screen. Not today, kiddos. Sorry. Now, let's say they try to record the meeting, they will have to request permission from me, and I can allow that or not. Again, they have the same reactions as you, a thumbs up or applause. Those are great behavior management tools when you can say, if you understand this, give me a thumbs up. Everybody give a class applause for Alyssa for doing a great job.
Now, like I said, I use Zoom every day as I teach online for the company Outschool. Outschool is a fantastic company where you get to choose where, what, and how much you teach for. It's fantastic, and I've absolutely loved teaching for them. I teach mythology, multiplication, science experiments. I'm all over the place, but I absolutely love that because I am somebody who loves creating lesson plans and teaching them to students when I can. If you are interested in teaching with Outschool, I'd love it if you use my link to apply. I will leave it below in the video description box. Now let's go over a few things you can practice before your next class to make sure everything is running the way you want to, the settings are set the way you want them to be set, and that you know how to manage the class on the Zoom platform. The first thing I want you to do is download the Zoom app onto your streaming device, whether that is a tablet or a computer. Make sure that you have the Zoom app downloaded and you've created an account. Next, you might want to grab some friends or family members to help you out here with making sure that everything is working okay. So to practice this, you're going to have a fake call here where you're going to practice all the things you're going to do in your lesson to make sure you understand how Zoom works, what you need to do in your lesson. First, test the audio. Make sure that your headset that you will be using is working. If you're not using one, make sure that whatever device you're using to stream the video is working well with the audio. And you want to check and make sure that they can hear you and you can hear them. The next thing I want you to check is the video. If you're using an external webcam, you might need to change to this and not your built-in computer or tablet webcam so that you get a better picture quality from the external webcam you're wanting to use. So you will do this under settings. The second thing I want you to check with video is that your lighting is good. You don't want any shadows across your face, and you do not want to be standing in front of a window because you will get a lot of backlight without being able to see you, without being able to see your face and what you're saying. You also want to make sure with your video you have a good internet stability. You could do this by running a simple internet test. Most companies that you teach for recommend that you have a speed of at least 3 megabytes uploading and downloading. Just Google internet speed test and run the test and you'll be able to see if your internet is fast enough. With your video, I also want you to make sure that your device is in the right placement, that everything you want to be on the screen is in the frame of the video and that they can see everything that you're seeing. You also might want to check and make sure that you know how to place things on the camera. This takes some practice. For example, sometimes people will show things too low, they'll put it too high, their heads might be out of the camera, or they'll show things like this when really they need to bring it into the frame. So just practice this a little bit with your video and you will have it down in no time. Now let's practice the host controls. I want you to practice muting and unmuting participants, making sure that works, seeing what happens on their end. You can also think about how you want your class to be. Are you more of a lecture styled teacher where you want to give a presentation and have them just listen? You might want to stick them on mute and then unmute them periodically. For me, I like the students to be interacting most of the class and speaking with me. For example, what's 2 times 5? Perfect. What's 5 times 2? Perfect. I'm asking them questions over and over again that I wouldn't want to be muting and unmuting over and over again. If there is a student that is disruptive, where their cat is in the background or mom's yelling at little brother because he spilled the milk, there's chaos, I will put them on mute. And I'm always very careful and tactful about how I do that, saying, I'm hearing a lot of background noise, so I'm just gonna go and put you on mute while I tell you this part of the lesson. That way they don't shut down, they don't go, oh, I can't say anything, she put me on mute. I try to be very tactful about that as to not shut down their participation in the class. Another thing I want you to practice is renaming the participants. Now, I block this so that the students don't rename themselves. You'll get some very fun and creative names, as you might imagine, but sometimes they log into mom's account, so I will just change their their name so that I can remember who I'm talking to. Another thing I want you to practice is allowing participants to join the meeting. Throughout class, you're going to get students that show up late, some that have to leave and then come back because their device isn't working, just different things like that. So I want you to see how you let students into the classroom, see when they're in the waiting room, and make sure that that chime is on so that you can notice when they're in the waiting room and when they've come into the Zoom session. Now, maybe you're not going to use this for your lesson, but I do want you to practice it. Practice sharing your screen. This is something I do in all of my lessons because I feel like it helps keep the students engaged. I also use it as a whiteboard to write on the screen to show them different math problems and maybe show them pictures of mythological creatures that we're talking about. It is so helpful to have the visuals, also the written language up there as I'm telling them. So I absolutely love sharing the screen for most of all of my lessons. And the last thing I want you to practice is recording your session with Outschool. That's done down on the control bar, and Outschool does this for you, so you don't have to worry about it if you're looking to teach with Outschool. They do that for you. They also post it to the classroom so that students can watch it later, or students that weren't able to make it live can watch it on their own time. This might be something helpful if you're teaching with a different company or you are teaching privately on your own, that you can record the session and send it to them later so that they can have it to watch and review the concepts you taught. Now, I hope you found this quick Zoom tutorial helpful as you're setting up your online classroom. Now I want you to go and adjust the settings and practice before your next online class. If you like this video, I would really appreciate a big thumbs up so I know that this was helpful content for you, and I will continue to create this content in the future. If you have any questions, you can always email me at teachingstephanieo@gmail.com or just leave me a comment and I will be sure to respond to you. Now, I want you to stay tuned for next week's video, which is all about how much I made in 2020 from teaching online. If you want to be notified when that video drops, I suggest that you hit the bell and subscribe so that you know when each video comes out that I create each week. And if you want to find more about finding the fun in online teaching, you can check out these videos on the screen. As my hero, Mr. Rogers, says, let's make the most of this beautiful day. Goodbye. I'll see you in the classroom.